Hey, you guys, Trisha Turner here. It's Tuesday. This is Anything But Average, Achieving Success in Life. Coming on a little bit early today because we got a little bit different format, but I got some really cool homegirls with me here today. I got Angela and Lindsay from Colorado here. Hi, you guys.
Hi.
Hi, we're so excited to be here.
Super cool. So we just were on their podcast, which we're going to talk about. And then we jumped over here because Angela's got a staging company too, and she's got to run off and do a staging job. So I always like to kind of give everybody some backstory on our podcast. So we're on our third year of the podcast. And it pretty much is to try to bring positivity into the world, into the real estate industry, into women in business, into all kinds of stuff, because I believe everybody has a success story. And I think we can impact the world when we share our strategies and things that have helped others. So I want to talk first with Lindsay. Let's talk about where you are in the world, how long you've been in real estate, and why you're doing staging as well, please. Sorry, Angela is.
Yeah, Angela, you go first. I was like, I don't do the staging. Yeah.
So I have been a realtor for 21 years now. I am in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Probably one of the heaviest influences of military clients on the planet. I have been a stager for about 5+ years now, give or take. But I also do renovations for all of my sellers. I am predominantly a listing agent, but I do own my own brokerage, and we have lots of buyers coming in and going out all the time. So that's where I'm at.
Lindsay, where are you at?
I'm in Denver, so I'm about 40 minutes north of Angela, and I've been an agent for 20 years, and I also am predominantly a listing agent. I really only work with buyers that are close friends or family at this point in time, and I have a kind of a small but mighty team, and yeah, Denver real estate is crazy right now, just I imagine like everywhere else.
Okay, so I'm curious, for one, how did you two meet each other? Were y'all friends for years? Where did that come about?
We've been friends for 13 years now? Something like that?
Maybe longer than that. And I think it's longer than that. I think it's like 15. We met, so both of us at the very beginning of our careers worked for a home builder. So we met working for the home builder down in Colorado Springs, and we've just been close friends and colleagues ever since.
Yep. So are y'all with the same company?
No.
Nope. I own my own brokerage. It's a small boutique brokerage called Mackenzie Jackson, which was named after my kids. And Lindsay just moved to a new brokerage.
Yeah. So I'm with Real Broker. So
y'all collaborate?
A little bit. I mean, we're partners and co-creators of our podcast, the Real HOMEgirls Podcast, together. And we definitely refer each other business back and forth. It's a little too far for me to go to where she is, and a little too far for her usually to come up here. So in that way, yes, but not really truly. We keep separate businesses.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys, and they're in Colorado, y'all. So y'all know the Colorado market is crazy and has been way before even the Houston market is. So let's talk with you, Angela, first. You guys, she's in a military town, and the world's a little bit weird right now in that aspect. What are you seeing different, before this drama in the world and compared to now?
I mean, our market is always kind of busy, but definitely our PCS season has started early. Normally we start around March, April, but this year we started kind of mid-January through right now is crazy busy. We have a lot of people moving out, not quite as many people moving in, thank God, because we don't have enough houses for it. But we do have a lot of people PCSing to Alaska with no notice, and a lot of folks that are getting some orders to Poland. So we've got some clients that are super excited about it and ready to go. Other people are I'm 5 years from retirement. I'm just going to drop my packet now. I don't want to do this again. So
I can't blame them. And then Lindsay, I'm curious, this is just an off the wall question.
Sure.
When marijuana became legal, here in Texas, everyone was flocking to Colorado. They're I'm going there. So have y'all seen that big of an uptick because of that?
Oh, it was absolutely bonkers when we first legalized. Yeah, I mean, the amount of cash that was coming into the market so while it is legal here and now in a lot more places, even though we led the charge, it is not federally legal. And so anyone in the business or that owns a company or a dispensary or anything like that, they cannot put their money in a federally insured bank. And so what they were doing here is they were coming and they were buying houses in cash, renting them out, earning an income on that house for 1 year, and then selling them. And then boom, you've got clean money that can go into the bank, right? So we were seeing a lot of cash deals.
Yeah. Or people buying up a smaller business and using the money to be laundered through that.
Yes.
Yes. See, I never thought about that. So have you seen that shift then? Has that slowed down?
Definitely. Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, it was, you know, what's really funny is like, I have this little app on my phone that gives me memories of like posts I've made or photos and things I've saved every day, every morning. And I was looking at it the other day, and there was a post from 10 years ago that I made where I was like, oh, I got 3 offers on my listing this weekend, you know? So it's like people think that in the last year, real estate just exploded and this market just happened. We have been on the upswing of a very strong seller's market for a very, very long time. It didn't just happen overnight.
No. And do you think that, because like I've been doing real estate forever here too, so a lot of, and I work only pretty much with listings, and so most of my sellers weirdly are the ones moving away, and so a lot of them are going to Colorado, and they struggle to find land, they struggle to find a home, and then when they do find something, they're like, I don't even know that I really care about this home, but it's a place to live. And that's been going on for years. Is it that you guys just don't build as much there? Why is that?
Water rights. In a nutshell, water rights is a big problem. So it's hard to build massive subdivisions if you don't have any water. So that's our problem.
Yeah, I do a ton of like land and farm and ranch and acreage stuff, and that's like my very favorite. We just don't have a lot of it here. So like, you know, we border up against the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, and so it's like, you know, I call it the coastline. You have this one stretch that's like, you know, long and narrow of land southeast that pretty much runs the whole state, where you can buy land or property, but then the rest of it is all subdivision because we get too close to the mountains for people to own big properties.
Okay.
And if you go up north, like closer to Wyoming, then you can find that land again. But it's definitely not like Texas where, you know, like I have friends who live in Dallas and they live in like a finger quote subdivision, but they're on several acres.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely not like that here. Most of our subdivisions are, I don't know, like 10,000, 8,000 square foot lots, I would say.
Yours is the same, Angela, where you are?
I will say most of our subdivisions here are 5,000 to 7,000 square foot lots.
Little.
We have small ones, yeah. Because the further out you go, it gets really cost prohibitive to build because you have to go with a well, and we're not at a very low water table here like you guys. We got to dig down 600 to 700 feet to get to water. So
or more,
like 30, 40, 50 grand. Like the site work is expensive. So while the land itself might not be crazy expensive, there's a whole lot of other costs involved that people don't usually think about ahead of time. So that kind of thing can be prohibitive.
So have you seen your home values continually increase over the last 5 years?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we've gone, like in Denver, we've gone from 5 years ago, well, honestly, 4 years ago, our average sales price in Denver Metro was $300,000, and now it's $725,000.
That's insane. What's yours, Angela?
I mean, honestly, down here at this point, it's stupid. It makes me angry because at this point, we're just, what's a crazy number that you would never think that you could get for your house? Cool. Let's list it at that. Sell for $50,000 more. We don't have it. There's no, like, you can use comparables. Yeah. I don't understand how appraisers are even coming close at this point. We're basically just making up numbers and going as we go. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy.
So let's talk a little bit about the VA stuff, because she's heavily, and I know she has to jump off early, she's heavily involved in it's a military town, and she's very frustrated with VA loans not getting accepted or even being allowed on listings. Talk about that a little bit, Angela.
So because I'm predominantly a listing agent, I will always advocate for my clients to accept VA loans and owner occupieds because those are the people that, you know, really need the homes that are going to be moving in. And I do absolutely educate them like, hey, if this is going to an investor and it's going to be a rental, Do you want that to happen to your peers in the next 5 years? Because most of my clients that are selling are military and are going to be selling to another military family or individual moving into their house. Do you want them to have to compete with investors raising the prices artificially quickly to make up for, making bad choices now? Because that's what they're doing. They probably overpaid for houses and are now trying to raise the amount of the average just so they can regain that profit back. But yeah, I mean, most of my clients are very receptive to that and they want to accept a VA offer. As long as they're going to be competitive with cash or conventional, I will fight on a VA appraisal all day long. And it'll come in where it needs to. And it's not a problem. But the conventionals, I can't fight. It just is what it is.
It is.
Like, I don't understand why you'd rather have that. But
no, and I don't know about there, but here, like, sellers have gotten really greedy. Where they're just holding these buyers over a barrel. It's like, come on, at some point we got to have some kind of common sense,
I don't think they factor in that they are going to be on the other side of that very quickly. And real estate karma is swift and fair.
So here in our market, when COVID eliminated a lot of industries and nobody had like jobs, especially the service industry, we had a bunch of people that became real estate agents. Are you guys seeing the same thing in Colorado?
Every day, all day long, new people getting licensed because they think that the market is so easy. We talked about this when we were on our show a couple minutes ago. This is the hardest market ever that we've ever seen in history. I mean, even the top producing agents are writing multiple offers and struggling. And, so it's not easy. It's like everyone hears that real estate is booming and they equate that with easy, but I don't know about you guys. This is the hardest I've ever worked in my career.
Oh yeah.
Nonstop, no days off. Yep. Now, Angela, you guys have been in it. Both of y'all have been in it for a long time. So you went through the mortgage industry crash too. What do you think is different when you look back then? Because for a while it was hard to sell homes because the banks weren't giving any loans. When you look back through that time and what we're going through right now, what do you think is something that sustained you through that you could help others learn from?
Well, during that time, I worked for a new home builder, probably with Lindsay. And, we kind of had to get around it because our market is predominantly VA. We used basically knowledge of VA loans to sell our homes. So with VA home loans, you can pay up to 4% of the purchase price towards debt reduction. And so I would raise the prices of our houses in order to pay off debt so they could afford the house. And then they couldn't, regular Joes won't compete with that.
No.
But we were able to do that. And then we would take $1 down for earnest money.
Yeah.
So we were busy all the time. But you have to get the knowledge to understand the market that you're in. If the market is a heavy seller's market and you're selling these houses for a crazy amount of money, how are you going to keep them in contract once they figure out that they've way overspent for the house? So you have to be really cognizant about who you're hiring. It's not just about who can list your house for the cheapest. It's who can get you the most to the closing table the quickest. That's what comes down to the value that you're, giving people. But yeah, it's a crazy market in general. And just having that knowledge of how loans work has been extremely beneficial to me and how to be able to sell in an up or down market on a seller side or a buyer side.
How about you, Lindsay? How many people do you have on your team?
I've run everything from a team with about 30 underneath me to right now I'm lean and mighty, but I have 2 buyers agents, an admin, and then a virtual admin. So I've focused really hard on just the correct leverage for me over the last year, but I'm in growth mode again.
Well, also it's your responsibility to basically help them be successful too. And in this market, when we have no inventory, that's a heavy load.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult. Yeah. I mean, actually, that's a really interesting point you just brought up because I'm talking to a lot of friends of mine who run big teams still. And yeah, they're exhausted. I mean, it's just even the emotional load right now of dealing with, billions of agents on your team that are freaked out and scared by the market and all of that, it's intense.
So I think, and I tell all my agents here, we can spend money on lead gen. We can run ads. We can bring leads in. And basically, a lot of times it's bringing buyer leads in, but we have no homes to offer to these buyers. So it's like we have to get out there and do our due diligence and do our part as real estate professionals to educate the sellers and let them know, let's do the math. Like I talk to sellers every single day. Well, let's run the numbers. Do you know, what's your plan? Like, what's the goal here? Why do you want to move? What is it, just to cash out? Or do you have you want to invest in properties, buy some investment properties? Let's look at all of that, because as long as we know where we're going and what we're doing, we can make it happen. But I think there's a lot of people that are just not knowing at all what to do right now, and no one's guiding them.
Oh, 100%. And they're scared. Like I said, I think people they're hearing the fear propaganda that the news is putting out about how it's impossible to buy and blah, blah, blah. And they're not understanding how powerful, if they're homeowners, right, and they've owned a home for a year or more, how powerful of a buying situation they're actually probably in. So I think that's part of what's affecting inventory too, is that nobody's moving because we've scared them.
Yeah.
And in y'all's market, where y'all have had really a seller's market, like you said, for years, and home values keep escalating, is this any different than what you've been dealing with for the past 4 to 5 years?
I mean, in Colorado Springs, we're kind of a different insulated market. Like after 3 to 5 years, you're basically forced to move. The military moves you on, and you don't really get a say. So that kind of helps us free up more houses back into the market and breathe new life. But they're being forced to move regardless. So it's not like we have that extra task of, hey, why don't you go buy another home here? If they're buying another home here, it's because they're PCSing to another base in Colorado Springs that's just maybe north, and they're having to sell their house down south and move north. But typically they're going to move from a resale to a new build in that case. So,
okay. And how about you, Lindsay, in your market?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different, but that made me think the way that you asked that question, actually, because is it different? Yes. Is it not different?
Yeah.
No. So it's also the same thing. It's way more compressed. I mean, we have 1,100 houses on the market right now for the entire metro area, which is 8 counties and millions and millions and millions of people. But we have 40,000 licensed real estate agents, right? So that means when all of those turn over this weekend, 39,000 of them don't eat next month, right? Yeah. So it's I definitely would say it's much more compressed, but in the way that we run our business and our value proposition and what we do and how we advocate for our clients buying or selling, no, it's not any different. I think it's just, I read a stat that said 80% of all licensed agents right now have been in real estate less than 3 years. So 80% of agents just don't have context on what this job is really like. And so they feel like it's really, really hard and really, really stressful, which it is, but they don't have any context for the fact that it's always really stressful one way or the other, right?
I think that agents don't realize the agents that are constantly the most successful are the ones with the best systems. And they're able to use those systems in any type of market. It doesn't matter. It just comes down to that. And I think that's something that will help agents in this current market when they decide that they can't handle it on their own anymore and they have to do something to change their business and they join a team, is they're going to see how that team uses their systems to leverage in the marketplace like this. And it's going to create better habits for them. And I think that's kind of something that sets more tenured agents apart from the newer folks.
So here in Houston, just on that same note, when I'm thinking about what you just said, here in Houston, the birth of mega teams has taken over. We have a mega team. I run a mega team, and we're in our third year in existence. But prior to that, 4 years ago is really when they started hashing, and the consumer now expects that. So it's as you see marketing and ads running, it's I can outspend the average agent. I will outspend the average agent. I will outwork anyone. So it's the consumers then are expecting it. So we're spending, maybe we're less profitable in some areas because we're having to spend so much, to feed the agent so much in marketing. But I tell people all the time, it's we're playing the long game. Yeah. And when the consumers are living on Google and Facebook and social media to learn about you, if you don't have a presence there, you're going to become irrelevant. Do y'all see that there too?
Oh yeah. And I agree with you 100%. I've taken some flack for, going into Facebook groups and asking for agents to refer if I don't know someone in the city, which is rare, but happens every once in a while. And I'll say, I want a team. And, people will write underneath my post and they'll get really nasty and they'll be like, why would you ask for that? And it's like, well, because I want to know that I'm delivering these clients to someone who is offering the same level of service as I am. Like you said, and Angela runs a brokerage, which is kind of the same as a team in general, in a way. Like, we want to know that they do have systems. We want to know that they can market things correctly. We want to know that they're refined in their communication, like all those things. I agree with you 100%. The gap between the newer single agent and the dominating experienced agent or team owners or brokerage owners is getting wider by the minute.
Yeah, it's the leverage is what it comes down to. Like, you're going up against a team that has 30 agents. Their social media reach is going to be higher and broader than any single agent. So how are you going to compete with that? It's not going to be by saying, I'm going to do it cheaper. I can assure you have to figure out how to compete with that, or you're going to be working at Kohl's.
Well, how do you deal with it? How do you go against a team who, has a concierge or a listing manager or whatever, someone calls them every Monday or every Wednesday, or, they send them flowers for this, or they touch them for that, you can't, it's going to get tough for those agents that aren't on a team or running one.
It is. And, as like in our office, we have a care coordinator, like you were just talking about. And she basically, and she's great at it. She, like I call it, she brings the fluff, basically. Like, she goes into the listing presentation after we have the listing, and she meets the sellers and she loves on them, and she stages the house and she makes it look amazing. And so she earns her money, definitely, but it's a greater experience for the sellers because they become a best friend to her. They feel like their needs are being met. That's something that I'm necessarily not all that good at. I'm like I'm like, business, let's get this done. She's not. She's that one that can go and do that extra stuff. People want that. And then they talk about that. And just like you, Angela, with your staging, it's like, you're going to go in there and you're going to make your listings outshine anybody else's around there. So why would anyone else call some other company? Why?
Right. Because they're going to have to pay for that service.
Yeah.
Or they're
probably going to pay me for that service.
Or they're going to put out a subpar listing and they're going to lose money and good terms. That's the other thing too that I think agents aren't talking to like their clients or the public about in general enough, is the terms that come along with what happens when you get multiple offers. It's not just that the price goes up, it's that you have to do less on inspection, appraisal doesn't become a concern. Like, there's a lot of, it's not just the price.
Yeah. Here, the popular thing is lease backs. Like, almost every transaction has, 1 to 2 month lease back at no charge after closing, because our clients have to move. And they'd rather sell now and not have the stress of having to sell right before they move. And we like to give them that luxury. So you got to figure out how to create a different experience. Otherwise, you're going to get gobbled up by a bigger team with more leverage.
Are you seeing lease backs, Lindsay, in your neck of the woods?
Oh, yeah. And actually, I got into it with an agent. It's funny. I got into it with 2 people this weekend, and I never have issues with anyone. They were yelling at me, but yeah, I mean, I would say almost 10 out of 10 deals, whether it's 24 hours so that they can move and clean, or it's, a month or whatever they need. But yeah, I had this agent over the weekend message me and she said, what is your client's preferred closing and possession dates? And I said, well, this is closing and they want this for possession. And she was like, so, okay, but I'm going to write my offer with closing and possession the same day. And I said, no, you asked me what their preference was. They want to close here and then have a rep back for 20 days. And she was like, well, I just find rep backs very, very confusing. So I'm not going to write one. And I said, okay, well, I already have 8 offers. So, and they've all included it, and she goes, well, you know that your clients have to pay the utilities and that they're going to have renters. And she's explaining the rules to me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm aware. Like, it's not confusing to me because I do it every day, all day long, and have for years and years. But I mean, she completely cost her clients the house, and her clients called me in tears. And they were like, I don't understand. She told us we can't do this because it's confusing, but I don't think it's confusing. I gave it the last 2 times I bought a house. Is she allowed to tell me what to do? So yes, we see them all the time. And again, like, you've got to get this stuff or you cannot win for your clients in this market.
Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing the next year, maybe 2 years, we're going to start seeing sellers that had agents that sold their house for way too little money come back real pissed off with attorneys saying, why did you steal $80,000 to $100,000 from me. I literally just saw somebody else sell the exact same floor plan as me 2 doors down for $100,000 more. Why did we leave that much money on the table? You're supposed to be a professional. Where's that money? That's theft. If you're leaving money on the table, that's theft, in my opinion. It's not your money to take. Like, anybody can sell a house right now, but you can't leave that money on the table.
No.
It's not yours.
Do you guys see any signs at all in both of your markets of the prices finally leveling off or even maybe depreciating?
Not yet. I mean, like I said earlier on our show, I did find this weekend to be slower, and by slower, I mean, I probably had 20 showings instead of 50, and I probably had 5 offers instead of 15. I think it's a combination of interest rates and people waiting a little bit to see what's going to happen with what's going on in the world. They're a little freaked out. Both of the listings that I put on the market this weekend are in major, the major economy in that town is supported by oil and gas. So I think people are freaked out about, what's going on up there for sure. But no, I mean, we came off last year and we talked about on our show for 6 months, like, we'll get into the beginning of the year. We'll stay busy through May, which we usually do. And then it'll level off. It got 10 times worse. I mean, we went from I think our average over asking last year was somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 over asking to right now 100.
Yeah.
200, $300,000 over asking right now.
And we've got the added thing down here of all the people from last year that weren't able to buy and they decided to rent. Now their leases are now coming up and they're like, okay, now we've got the money that we've saved. We're ready to jump into the market.
Yeah.
We don't have enough houses to support that.
Good luck.
Yeah.
So what about first-time home buyers? You guys probably don't even have a market they can buy in, right?
Most of the buyers in this market in Colorado Springs are first-time home buyers.
Yeah, no, up here, I mean, it's absolutely brutal. Like, for the first time in 20 years, I've had to tell 3 or 4 people, I'm very sorry, but you just can't buy in Colorado. Which is different than the people that I get that send me a 27-page long email of I want this and this, and I have to say to them, that's just not realistic right now. This is telling these sweet kids that have saved their 3.5% and they have 700 credit scores. Unfortunately, you don't have an appraisal gap. You don't have enough money to go over. You can't buy here.
No.
And it's
sad,
heartbreaking. And there's so many people going, well, we're just waiting for it to crash. We're just waiting for it to crash. The longer that they wait, the worse they're screwing themselves over. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Here, our home values went up for the first time in 2013 and 14. We were in a seller's market. Home values went up more than they normally do. And I told you guys that they normally don't appreciate. They had appreciated during that time. So if you bought your house in 2014, that was at the peak. And it was from May to October. Well, then in December-ish, we had oil crash. Semi-crash. And so literally January and February, home values went back down $50,000, $70,000 per property. So it was what your home was once worth in October of 2014 was depreciated 50 to 70,000 in just 6 months. So I think people here are waiting for that to happen again. And all the economists are it's not coming. So it's I can't guide you on that because we don't have a crystal ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Versus here where I've got a client that we just sold their house this weekend and she PCS for military reasons and lived in the house for literally, by the time we close, it'll be 2 years and 1 day. So she doesn't have to pay her capital gains tax.
Good.
Walking away after everyone's paid with $230,000.
That is insane.
Hasn't done a single thing to the house. Just let us stage it and let the market do its thing.
Wow.
Well, it's like Trisha said earlier on our show, Angela had said, for military people who they don't have a potential to earn a huge income ever in their life if they're career military. And then Trisha had said, it's like winning the lottery. That's like winning the lottery. That's insane.
Yeah, that's life-changing stuff.
Yes.
And if you aren't guiding them with what to do with that newfound windfall, you're not doing your job as an agent. They need to save a certain amount. What should they be doing with that money? You have to guide them. You have to have that education and that knowledge to be able to help tell them, hey, it's probably a good idea that you get a CPA this year that's not, TurboTax. Probably going to be a problem for you. We need to figure out, what to put that money into that's going to have it to keep growing so that you don't spend it on dumb shit. So
So as you like run your brokerage, Angela, and looking like ahead, because we don't know what's coming. I mean, the world's crazy and it seems to get crazier every year. Something big always happens every year.
Right.
How are you guiding your agents? Like, what would you tell because we have a lot of real estate agents that watch the show, that new agents, seasoned agents, what should they be focusing on this year to make it through?
I've got my hands in a lot of different real estate pots. So I'm not just a realtor, not that there's anything wrong with that. But I've decided to offer renovation services to all of my clients, and then I bill them at closing. So they don't have to pay for any of that in the front end. I've been an agent for long enough that I can afford to do that. That's a service that most other agents can't compete with.
So are you covering like painting, cabinets, floor? Are you doing like a whole gamut?
Everything. Like, we'll renovate the whole house. I love
that.
I've done $100,000 renovations for people. And we can do multiple ones. I have all in-house contractors and everything. So I'm able to do that. So that's the great thing about leverage. Find a broker that offers something different. So that helps sustain me. We've got, people outside of, the buy and sell side of things that are like, hey, can you come renovate our house? So I'm doing those things, and that's a huge extra value add for, my family and my business. And then the staging side of things, offering that to other agents now, and then, getting a check for an extra 20, 30 grand a month is really nice. To be able to, stage houses that I think is fun, and just do that, on the side when I'm not selling homes.
So for an average agent that maybe doesn't have sustainability or maybe doesn't have any capital, what should they be focusing on right now to get through this hard time?
When I first started my staging business, I would take $500 out of each transaction and go buy staging stuff. And make sure it all matches. And then you can start your own company. Anytime you see a hole in the market, that's an opportunity for you to start a business. Like, I'm currently trying to rent a new commercial space, and I'm like, this whole process sucks. Like, how can we fix this? I don't want to be a commercial agent, but I will if I have to be.
It does suck.
But I look at every problem as an opportunity. Like, if I see a hole somewhere, I'm going to fill it with a new business. I'm one of those people that Lindsay's like, do you have free time? What business have you started this week? Like, I do that. That's just my thing. Because I'm like, well, I've got systems that I use for real estate that I could use for this, and we can figure it out. And, why not? Why not provide more jobs? So
I think you know what, like Amazon, when they first started, it was an online bookstore, and then they got involved in every freaking industry out there. Like, that's what you're doing. You're getting involved in everything to do with real estate. Why would you?
Yeah, if I can make it so that it's a turnkey thing and they don't have to call anybody else ever, they should just be able to trust me and sign the paperwork, and we'll get the whole thing done for them, and they can show up to closing with an extra 50 to 100 grand in their pocket just because they worked with us instead of somebody else.
And you made your house amazing, and you took the stress off of them, and you covered all the upfront costs. It's a no-brainer.
Yep.
I would pay you for it.
Lindsay,
I mean, it's a solid value proposition. I do. I need you to come up here and do it for me so I can pay you for the staging, please.
You're going to have to start it there, Lindsay. You know that, right?
I know. I'm just not as talented as she is.
Oh, you are. You just got to spend more time with her. Let her rub off.
Super easy. Literally, all I did was I went on Pinterest and I found a whole bunch of different rooms that I liked, and then I just copied them. That's why I started.
So easy.
Yep.
So, Lindsay, what would you tell people, these agents, to help them? And what are you telling like your team, your buyer's agents, to help get, because number one, they're getting defeated. They're getting overwhelmed. They're like, okay, I've been showing this client homes for 3 months now. I've showed them over 60 homes. I've written over 20 offers. We still don't have one. I'm like, I'm wanting to quit. What are you telling these people? What can we tell them?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely try to get them to focus on the emotions of their clients more than the emotions of them as the agent. I mean, if this is hard for the agent, it's 20, 30 times harder for the client than it is, for the agent. So I definitely try to get them to realize that they just need to stick in it with people, and that they have made a commitment to those people, and that those people are really leaning on them and relying on them, and that, they're important. But, also just letting them know that this job is tough, but it's wonderful. And so there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but unfortunately we do have to work hard to get there. We have to work harder in some cases than we do in others, but and I think just taking care of your people, if you're a team leader or you have colleagues or whatever right now, is super important to check on them, make sure that they're okay. ask them what they need. If you're the team leader, I'm telling everyone that I work with to call me and tell me when they're submitting an offer on something beforehand, just in case like I happen to know the agent or someone on the team that we can make a connection with. I think that team leaders just need to be super like all hands on deck right now with their people, because it's really hard. You got to pour into your people really extra right now, for sure.
Or somebody on their team might need one of your listings. So
figure
out how to make it work for everybody. And just being communicative is really helpful in this market. I don't understand why you wouldn't be in any market, but this market especially, you can make your life a hell of a lot easier just by answering your phone.
Right.
Yeah. And being nice and professional. Like when we're get offers in on our listings, if it's an agent that is unprofessional and a pain in the ass to deal with, we're probably not going to look at that offer very well if we've got 10 others to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, the agents that fight, and I know them, right? Like that fight with everyone all the time, or that are arguing or making things super difficult. Like, yes, the tides will turn, but in this market right now, like you get one chance to not piss off people and that will come back around to you. So like just act like a cooperating broker. You're all a team trying to get something to closing. There's no need for aggression or yelling or any of that stuff.
No. Well, I got to ask you too about your podcast though. So you guys, they have a podcast called the Real HOMEgirls Podcast. I want to talk about that, Frank, because I think it's super cool. Where'd that name come from?
I can't remember who came up with it. I think it was just somebody was like, oh, we should call it the Homegirls. And we were like, oh, that's cute. And we went for it. But that's what we are, because we're homies in that we're friends, and we're homegirls in that we sell houses, I think. Yes.
And how often is your podcast on?
We air so we do a live broadcast every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And that's kind of aimed towards education and empowerment and inspiration towards agents. And then we also host our podcast on all the major platforms like iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all those millions of different Amazon podcast places as well. So
I think it's close crap. How long have you had it?
We're going into year 3 too. So actually it'll be year 3 on Wednesday, tomorrow, Angela. Whoa.
Should probably celebrate that some way.
You probably should. So
I'm going out of town. I don't know what you're doing.
But you're going on vacation. That I wasn't.
I've been on vacation in 5 years. So I deserve it. Even though I'm saying that because I feel really guilty. But we should probably celebrate because it's year 3.
Which is awesome. You see a lot of podcasts that they come on and then they disappear or they're not consistent. And I think, in the real estate world, I know here in Houston, people pay attention to like real life stuff. I mean, they don't want to see everything all glitz and glamour. People can still do the glitz and glamour, but here we're about being real. And it's like, I want to educate people. I was a single mom doing real estate for years and it sucked and it was a struggle. And that was part of me opening a brokerage. Was like, I didn't want people to have to struggle like that again, because unfortunately, like in our market here, the Keller Williams and the big box companies like that, they may have 300 or 400 agents in their office or in their market center, but really only 10 or 20 of them sell houses. The rest of them
exactly. Yes.
I don't even sell any houses, And so for us, we don't want them to be in that kind of environment where it's cliquish and nobody's going to help them. It's like they need to come and be part of something that's going to help them be sustainable and be able to pay their bills and live in abundance,
Yeah.
Big difference.
Absolutely.
Like in your market, don't you have a ton of competition too?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not smart enough to do the math, but I would say there's like, 40,000 licensed real estate agents and 1,100 homes on the market. Yeah. I mean, that's insanity, right? Like crazy.
And so do you have a lot of brick and mortar offices there?
Tons. Yeah. Actually Remax started here in Colorado. So they're headquartered here, and Keller has I would say all the big brick and mortar companies that you're used to are big presence here for sure. Absolutely. Yes.
I think when you look at like in here in Houston, we have a lot of the discount ones too. So we have a lot of the big box ones and we have a lot of the discount
started getting those. I'm interested to hear about that because we kind of just started seeing those.
Really? They've been here forever.
Interesting.
And it's like, what are you guys getting? Like nothing. You're basically running yourself. And unfortunately, most of those agents are the ones that aren't educating the buyers and sellers because unfortunately they need that home to sell more than the buyers or the sellers do because they don't have any money. It's like, it's like, who are they really working for?
It's crazy.
I mean, when you look at
Crazy.
the other side of the transactions, you gotta that line sometimes gets blurred with who you're actually representing. I think that's such a disservice to whoever your client may be,
100%. I totally agree. Yeah.
think
No,
as we
it's
move forward in our industry and we keep having, disruptors come in and try to disrupt the industry, and we had, all these iBuyer programs come in, and it's like, why would anyone even look at an iBuyer program right now? You could put your house on the market and sell it for over market value. Why would you take anything less? That's
I
insanity.
don't know. It's a hell of a lot to give up for the convenience of not showing, right? But then again, agents need to figure out ways to make it so convenient for their clients to show properties. Like figure out, can you send them to a hotel for a weekend, or you send them movie tickets for $20 so that on Saturday when they have 27 showings, they can go to the movies, or, just think outside of the box, because people are giving up massive percentages of their equity to these iBuyers for no reason.
Did you see them come into your market a lot like we did here?
Yes. Yeah. So definitely Zillow and Open Door have had a big presence here. I think we just started seeing like Orchard and OfferPad in the last year or so, but yeah, big time. Mm-hmm.
And are you seeing them still with a heavy presence?
Zillow has pulled back because of everything that went on with them. I think Open Door, yeah. I mean, it's what? Like I was showing houses one day a couple months ago, and it was like, I showed one here, and then it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like there were like 8 houses on the same street, and they were all owned by Open Door. I was like, what are you guys doing? And then none of them sold.
This is crazy.
So weird.
It is so weird. I look forward to when the market gets more balanced and we actually have homes that people can look at, when buyers actually can go out and look at 10 houses maybe and like some of them, not one where they have to offer like their heart, soul, and everything, their firstborn child to get that house.
I know. It's heartbreaking, isn't it? It's really, really hard.
It is. Like I tell the agents here, I'm like, what you got to do is just be like, do the math, look at your clients, like what is their best thing? I mean, be honest with them. Sometimes these conversations are hard, but you got to have these hard conversations because we know what's going on. We do this day in, day out. They don't have a clue. They're just relying on media to feed them and whatever else they're hearing from, their Joe Schmo. But it's like, you got to be the expert. You got to master your craft, and you got to be the one that's educating these people, or it's going to be overwhelming for everybody. And everybody.
Yeah, and the market moving really, really fast is not an excuse to me. Listen, I work in it too. I understand that it's really difficult and there's a lot going on. It's very emotional and it's high-paced, fast-paced and all that stuff. But like, yes, you still have to master your craft. If you can't figure out how to write a solid offer, then you need to get someone that can help you physically write it for you while you're running around and doing showings or whatever you're doing. It's not an excuse to just turn in a crap offer that screws over your clients, right? Like, if you can't figure out how to get your clients in to see a property because you're so busy, then you need to figure out a way for, someone, a colleague, some support, a showing assistant, whatever, to get them into that property, right? It's, the market won't stay this way forever. Markets are cyclical. If you've been in it a long time, like both of us have, it will change. And then at some point when it does change, you will have no clients because you didn't take care of them correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love your mentality. I love having you on today. You guys, y'all got to pay attention to their podcast, Real HOMEgirls Podcast. It's super cool. They have great energy. They're in Colorado, of course, so they have, I guess, good vibes there. And where else can they find you? The Facebook, Instagram, where else can they find you guys?
All the places. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We're always the Real HOMEgirls Podcast.
I love that. And didn't you say that you're looking to start growing your team a little bit more, Lindsay?
I am. So if there are agents out there listening who want to be in Denver or kind of Denver metro area, call me, find me. I would love to speak with you.
You guys can Google it, Real HOMEgirls Podcast. Look for it on Facebook. I found them. I found them in another group that we're in. And I was like, I just saw the name of your podcast. I was like, holy crap, I got to look more into this. I got to have y'all on mine because I didn't even know about it. Love that.
No, it's so cool. Congratulations to you on your long-term success with your show too, because, like you said, there's a lot of, I think I read 90% of podcasts don't get past episode 10.
Yeah, I agree too. So reach out to Lindsay. Unfortunately, Angela had to go. She had to go do a staging job, but catch their podcast too. We're here to educate you guys, bring y'all some positivity, let y'all know, yeah, it's tough in the real estate world right now, but we will get through this. This too shall pass. Right, Lindsay?
Amen. Yes,
You
absolutely.
guys have an awesome day.
You too. Thank
Bye,
you so
y'all.
much, Tricia. We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.